Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be talking about grazing. Can be cattle, can be sheep, can be goats. It doesn't really matter. Just grazing during a drought. What are some of the things you need to pay attention to? What should we be doing differently? Should we be feeding hay? Should we not? How should we rotate differently? It's all coming up today. Stick around. Get started first. If you haven't seen our channel before, we are in Southern Ohio, so very different from the South, but we are in the Midwest. We get quite a bit of rain typically. For the last 2 years, we've had drought conditioned summers. Last year was really bad. They called it a D2 here in my county. This year, we went 16 weeks, and in 16 weeks during the summer, I got 2 rains that were a 1/4 inch each, so a 1/2 inch of rain over a 16-week period. Very, very different from our typical. We typically get 45 to 60 inches of rain per year, tons of rainfall, tons of great grass. We don't have abnormally hot summers. It's very rare to have more than a week over 100 degrees, but this year is very different. We are grazing in a drought. So as we talk about this, I first want to go into some of the preemptive things. What can you do to prevent issues during a drought, or perhaps just be better prepared? Our fields kind of look kind of bad right now. This is the worst field, and that's why I brought you back here. This is the worst paddock on our entire farm. We've got a lot of weed pressure. You'll see some ironweed out here. We've got a little bit of ragweed out here, which came with the dryness and the heat. And this was a test plot that we used and we let grow up. So the weed pressure is it's just the worst paddock we have. But this still looks better than most of my neighbors. So what are we doing differently? We'll take you and show you another plot on our farm. What are we doing differently that's preventing major damage, major overgrazing, major burnout? Well, the first thing, because we're in the fall of 25, prices are very high, so that you know our conditions, we reduced our head count. So we've had drought last year. We reduced head count a little bit there. Prices were good. We were profitable. We reduced head count again this spring. So my stocking density is really about half of what this farm can actually handle. We did it because of the profit. We were selling cow-calf pairs for $4,500, selling bred cows for $3,600 to $3,800. And it was just a good time to call some animals. It was a good time to lower our count and change our model a little bit here. So our stock density went down, and that's the first thing you can do. Lower your stock density, but it may not be the best decision. So let's talk about those factors. So if prices were low, it's a pretty obvious decision if you bought your animals at a low price. If you bought today and we go to a low crashing price, you're gonna lose when you sell animals like that. So you gotta kind of play this into factors. Fortunately for us, we bought low, we sold high. That's a good model. But today, the market is continuing. The futures look like it's going to continue for another year or 2 at minimum. We have high prices, and it's going to continue to stay this way. So it's not a good time to really get rid of your cattle in a cow-calf operation, because those calves are worth quite a bit of money. So it might be better for you to buy in more hay, keep your head count, maybe call a few that are old or bad or something you're looking to get rid of. Good time to call, lower the count a little bit. But if you got rid of all your cows and lowered your stock density during the highest time that you can produce profit with calves, it may not be the best time for you. So you have to weigh that in the decision. How much money extra are you going to spend on hay because of this drought versus how much money are you going to make by keeping your head count, by keeping your cows that are bred, that are going to drop calves in the spring, or the calves that you are getting ready to wean here late fall? What's the value going to be? Keeping those calves all the way till March or April in the spring when they're the highest. You have to weigh that on hay prices, which is our really #1 cost here on our farm. Now, if you're running a stocker operation or a stock to finish operation, kind of like we run, we have sold most of our cows and are turning our farm more into a stock to finish for a few reasons. One, we now have a reliable, high quality breed supplier. They're all going to come from 1 farm or 2 farms to our farm. We're not buying them at the sale barn. We're not buying our stocker cattle at a stockyard. Two, we're trying to keep up with our meat customers. So as we reduce cow-calves, we can increase our meat customers and our meat producing stockers here on our farm, sometimes called feeder calves. We'll buy them at that 4.5 to 5.5 range, take them all the way to butcher weight. That's how we make our money here. If you're in that type of an operation and you don't have everything sold, it's probably a good time to lower. So why would I say that? Because of the prices are high. If you bought these calves at a good price, whether that's lower when you bought them when they were low, or you bought them at least cheaper than it is right now, or you've put good weight on them and you can make a profit back, this is a good time to get rid of them to lower your stock density because of a drought. Increasing your cost on hay, buying in more hay just to keep stockers that you may not have sold as beef, or you may not have at the correct weight for the market to send back, it's probably a better idea to get rid of them because of the cost and the price right now in the market. For instance, to run some numbers by you, when I sell a butcher ready beef, we get somewhere between $4,000 and $4,200 for a fat steer, ready to butcher. We then pay the processor. So the processor comes out of my pocket. That's just the way we do it here on my farm. So we're looking at $600 to $800, depending on how it's butchered, to pay that processor. Now we're at $3,200 gross profit, somewhere between 32, sometimes 36 if we have a larger steer. That's about what you can get right now for a fat steer at the market. I have seen prices at $3 on fat steers, live weight. That is an incredible price. If you have a 700-800 pound steer or heifer, they're going high enough right now that the profit is there now. I don't need to sell to a customer. I don't need to put it in somebody else's beef. I can ship it off to the yard, and as the farmer, I can do well. I can make just the same amount of profit or close to it, enough that it's not affecting me, and I don't have to buy hay. So cow-calf, right now, prices are high. I would probably hold and buy more hay. Stockers or a small farm that you're really just hurting and you don't have the money, it's probably a good time to cut some animals and lower your stock density. That's the first thing you can do during a drought. Now, like I said, we did that. The other reason we're not affected like the guys around me, and the guys around me have cut their numbers as well, but we rotationally graze, which I think is a huge part of why we have tall standing grass and they do not. We rotationally graze. We have not been on this for over 60 days now, and it has grown back. It did get 1/2 inch of rain in that time period, but it has been really dry. And so our grass continues to grow because we rotationally graze and we don't beat it up. Why is rotationally grazing so important, or more important, during a drought? Well, I had an old farmer tell me that a cow, calf, whatever, cattle have 5 mouths. 4 they walk with and 1 they chew with. Well, what's he meaning here? When a cow, a cattle, steer, whatever it would be, puts his foot down, he's breaking off grass. It's even more prevalent during a drought because that grass is kind of dry and it can crack over and then die. Every time they set that foot down, that's a place that their mouth will then not eat. So they really trample as much or more than they eat. So if you're giving them free rein of your farm, or maybe you have a quarter or a half of your farm open to them at a time, they're running around looking for the best stuff. And while they're doing that, they're trampling your grass down because you're not condensing them in an area, forcing them to eat. Now you can't see the cattle right now. It's hot. They're back here in this shaded area underneath this trees back here. They're all up except for there's one laying down back here, and they're all got their head down eating. But we put them in here last night. They've been in this paddock. They'll stay in here for about a week. This is about a 3-acre paddock. We're doing weekly moves right now. Could it be better if I was doing daily moves or twice a week? Yes, but I'm looking to save labor, and the grass is not great back here. So we're putting them back here, but they're back there, they're eating, they're doing well, but it's because we're rotating them. Another thing we've done is we have decided to feed a little hay. And this came with a decision because rain was on the horizon. In fact, I'm shooting this video after the rain has come. So we saw in the forecast, 7-day forecast, 3 days in a row, 100% chance of rain. Weathermen usually aren't right. In fact, they're wrong more than they are right. But when I see 3 days in a row at 100%, we're gonna get some rain. They were calling for 3 to 4 inches of rain. So I thought, man, there's gonna be at least a good amount of rain hit our farm. So instead of trample grass and move to 2 or 3 more paddocks, I decided, let's just go ahead and segregate them off, let them eat it down in one little paddock that we had more than they really should. I fed 3 round bales, essentially $100 worth of hay, to get us to another week, a week and a half. Let that rain come, let it hit, let the ground soak it in, let the grass bounce back, and then our grazing paddocks will be even better. Hopefully this drought will be over and we'll start seeing some rains come in. We'll recoup, our farm will recoup, and it'll be better. So I brought you up here. This is the other reason. You can see I brought a half a bale up here. So I let them graze half of it up there. I unrolled half of it. I brought the other back. They kind of unrolled this themselves. I just threw it down here because they have so much to graze here. But we've spent about $100 and it really bought us about 8 acres. So we did not paddock graze about 8 acres that we would have during that time. And instead, we only fed 3 round bales. So I bought 8 acres worth of grass for $100. It kind of paid off because the rain was coming. So what are some of the other things you can do? You can irrigate, you can unroll hay, you can get rid of cattle. We've talked about that. And you can try to lease some more land. So maybe there's some land next to you that has some grass on it and you can bug neighbors and those kind of things. That's really all that you can do in my mind. Now, there is irrigation, but we don't irrigate here. We don't have a way of irrigating. If I had a big pond and it had a lot of water in it, I would buy a pump at Harbor Freight and I would be pumping and trying to irrigate some to at least let cows. I would irrigate about a week before I wanted to graze that paddock. So that is an opportunity in places. We just don't typically do that here in our area of Ohio, Northern Kentucky. You don't see a lot of irrigating of pastures. It's expensive. We're on city water here. So that's not for us, but maybe that could be an option for you. I want to take you over and show you some of our pastures after we got this rain. We got 2.5 inches 4 or 5 nights ago. And I want to show you what the grass looks like now. I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor of today's video. It is Herdyard. You can check them out at herdyard.com if you're looking for a better, safer way to buy and sell cattle. In this market, in this drought, you're looking to maybe get more or maybe get rid of some, and the stockyard or the sale barn is a little bit risky for you. Check out Herdyard. They are building up. They're really good in the South right now, and as they continue to grow, it is free to join. Go to their website, sign up. You can use code STRONGROOTS005 to let them know that we sent you. You can get your first listing for free using code LIST25. All this will be down in the description, but it's free to join, free to peruse, free to buy. You'll get your first listing if you're trying to sell for free, and then after that, they have different payment plans for that. It is very good. I like the security of it. I like that I can vet who I'm buying from. You're buying from farms, not sickness-filled sale barns. It's a good thing. Check it out. So behind us here, you'll see our pastures. Doesn't look like we're in a drought. The grass is a little thinner as far as the leaf of the grass. I can tell you from typical. We don't have as many legumes popping in as we typically do. Even in the fall, we have more legumes in this. That is due to this drought. But that 2.5 inches of rain, even though we're still probably 8 to 10 inches behind schedule now, has really caused our pastures to bounce back. The other thing I want to talk about is clipping pastures. And so should you be clipping? I did a video on clipping. Icon looks something like this. What we're talking about is bush hogging down or clipping the tops after we graze. Should you be doing that in a drought? So if during the drought you're still rotationally grazing and you're just getting what you can get, they're eating what's there, the grass is coming down, you're doing more damage than typical because it's dry, I do not clip. The reason being, even though there's more weeds, even though it looks like we should clip, is because it was so dry on my grass, I just figured that my tractor and my bush hog or my mower, my rake, my hay mower, whatever we would cut with, would do more damage than it would do good at that point. So the pro of clipping would be that you're cutting off any weeds, forbs, things that they're not eating. It will then dry out, become fodder on top of the grass, and when it does rain, it will soak that grass up. But the problem is that the amount of damage that you're causing to the good grass, I think, outweighs the pro there. The other thing is when you cut the top off of it and you're coming and clipping after they go through and you're in a drought, you're giving the sun more access to your soil and more access to the lower grasses that you're gonna then burn up. So I do not clip during a drought, but there is a window. This window comes when you know rain is coming. Like you're for sure you're getting rain. And if you don't get rain, you're gonna have to irrigate. It's about 2 days before the rain comes. Maybe a day would be the best. If you could actually bush hog right as it's coming, that's really the best time. You're gonna come in through and cut, and then the rain is gonna hit it. Those weeds are gonna get brown. They're gonna soak up water. Those forbs are gonna get brown. They're gonna soak up water, the tops of everything they didn't eat, and it's gonna hold it on the surface for your grass to then absorb and boom back. Now this window comes from 2 days prior to that rain to about 2 or 3 days after that rain. So the ground, when it's in a drought, it just soaked up the water. That 2.5 inches we got over a 2-day period, nothing ran off of our farm. It soaked it in, everything pulled up. I did not get to it before the rain came because we were at our county fair. I came back and clipped, and this is what you get. I'm gonna spin you around the other side over here. Looks even better. You can see it a little bit better. And so you can see kind of brown, woody lanes of grass, but underneath now is green. And so I come in, all of that brown stuff that you're seeing on top, it had some water soaked into it, but it has now put it back on top of the soil. We're covering our soil back. We're not raking this up. We're not baling it. We're just dropping it right back as fertilizer. And my grasses now will start to come back. Hopefully we continue to get rains and you won't even notice this fall, this late fall into the winter, that this had a drought problem. The problem with cutting, which most people have said this is really weedy, and it was. Ragweed, ironweed, forbs, they're all bad here. The cattle didn't eat it. We let the cattle graze through here for 2 days. We took them off, and then we bush hogged a couple days after the rain. But those weeds, had we cut them early, would have allowed that sunlight down to that grass. We want to keep that grass covered as much as we can, even if it's with a nasty forb that we don't want seeding out. And so that's kind of my opinion on that. And that's why we don't clip during a drought. Last thing I'm going to talk about is what we call emergency mode. So had we not got this 2.5 inches of rain that allowed our pastures to start popping back quickly, we would have gone to emergency mode, meaning anytime we would have allowed our cattle on our pasture, they would have just destroyed it. And so we would have had to go into the barn, into a sacrifice area, and start feeding hay. Could we unroll hay out here? Yes. But I think the damage during the fall, when I'm still expecting to get more growth, when I'm still expecting to build soil for winter grazing, I would have took them to a sacrifice acre or the barn where we have a feedlot, and I would have fed hay. And I just would have bought my time until those rains came. I would have waited and fed them, continue to feed them up there until about a week after the rain came, giving my grass time to recoup. But the other option you have during emergency mode is to change your grazing, change your rotation method. This is where we like to go and change from paddocks, from square paddocks across our field. So if you look across here, we're at a fence here, there's a fence in the middle and then a fence all the way over towards the barn. We typically, between this fence and this middle fence, we'll get 3 paddocks. So there'll be 3 paddocks here with a wide lane, and then we'll get 3 more. The problem is in that square, they roam, and every time they step, they kill grass. So we then go to strip grazing. What I'll do is go all the way from this fence, all the way to that fence with a line, and I move that line forward 6 feet every day. Now, why 6 feet? My goal is to keep the cattle's feet on what they've already grazed and just their nose and face in the 6 feet. Now, we know that doesn't happen, but when you're only giving them a thin strip, and it's best to do it 2-3 times a day. If you can give them 3 feet 3 times a day and that's enough grass, or 6 feet 3 times a day, whatever it takes, the less they walk on the grass, the higher productivity you're gonna have. So in that emergency mode, in the strip grazing mode, what we would do is unroll hay behind them and strip graze that 6 feet. I would try to move twice a day, and we would just keep giving them 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet, and unroll hay behind them to creep across our farm as slowly as we could, praying for rain, but keeping them from trampling the grass as much as possible. This is also another good time if you have a hay feeder on wheels, one of these mobile hay feeders. You can also do that and move that through the pasture as you go. They waste a little bit less hay than unrolling the hay, because they're always going to want to try to get even this green grass over hay at this time period. So if you move that and they can recoup with the hay and strip graze, you tend to make your pastures stretch even further. Well, there you have it. I will say, and I will note, that most people down south would not think that 16 weeks without rain is a huge drought. In the Midwest, in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, up here where we are, this is a long time for us. Our cattle are not built like the cows in the South. Our Black Angus and Red Angus cattle are not meant to be on super dry, desertish style Texas grass, okay? They're not built for that. There's different breeds for that. So when we go to grasses and we go through droughts like this, it affects our cattle differently. When the grass is dry like this here, it becomes almost bitter and woody, which the cows don't like it as much. The daily gains go down, and they tend to eat more square footage than they would if we had good grass. So that's our problem here, and this is how we alleviate it, or at the bare minimum, survive it. And so that's the goal. So what I can do, the best advice I can give you, is start a good rotational grazing program, manage your grasses, let the weeds grow, let the forbs grow and shadow it out as best you can. Keep as much moisture as you can. So take that for what it's worth. Hope this video helped you. Let me know your comments. Let me know if you do something different, if there's something that we could have done differently than we are. Another thing you'll notice, we are not weed eating our fence rows. Kind of looks ugly. It's not grounding out the fence totally. We've fallen down about 1.0 on our charger because of all the grass that's touching it everywhere, but I'm trying to get as much shade as we can. These are the methods we take to survive on a drought time period. The rain is coming. We're having more rain called for next week. We should get back into the fall. We should get wet. It's harvest time for the row croppers, so likely we'll get wet and it'll be a pain for them, but it will definitely help us. We should still have a fall flush coming. We should still have good grass. We should be able to graze this during the winter if the rains do come. Appreciate everybody watching. Until next time.
Please like the video and subscribe.